Hello, hello, welcome. All right, so we'll wait for folks to trickle in, but kick off. So today we're going to be chatting about business credit cards. And this was kind of an ode to all the Sequin women who have a side hustle or their own business. There are just so many of us. And so wanted to talk a little bit about business credit, how that differs from personal credit, what you might need to consider, and how to pick the best fit for you. So I know we're a tight group today, and if you feel comfortable, turn your video on. If not, totally fine, no pressure. But more participation is always better. And one piece we want to mention is we're actually thinking about possibly posting these sessions on our Sequin website. So it'll just be for our Sequin community, but especially if anyone's not able to make it, we just wanted to share the session with them. So if you aren't comfortable for whatever reason, feel free to change your name and turn off your camera, but it's always more fun even watching these sessions when your camera's on and you're chatting. So whatever you feel comfortable with is great. All right, so it looks like we have some new faces coming in. More folks, so exciting. Great. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone who just joined, and welcome Shweta. I know you were really excited to hear about business credit cards. So this week I will dedicate our Power Hour to you. So for those of you who are entirely new faces here, we are Sequin. We're a fintech on a mission to get women the credit we deserve. My personal story, I say this every week, but I am the founder and CEO of Sequin. I worked at Visa for many years, built popular credit cards, got rejected from the one that I built, and realized I didn't know anything about credit and I didn't want any more women to get rejected. So I founded this company. We have some amazing partners, Visa, IDEO, 90% of our cap table is women. So tons of girl power, we like to say. So welcome to those of you who are new to what we're doing here. And I know it's Thursday, so tomorrow is our payoff day, but I always just like to take a moment at the beginning of these. We heard some feedback about our app being down in the Slack, and so grateful to those who shared that they were having that experience so we could fix some of the glitches. But and we're all back up and running, which is really exciting. But would love to just take a few minutes. Does anyone have any questions, or has anything come up in the last week as you've been interacting with the Sequin app, or any questions at all just kind of on our product? Want to take 1 or 2 minutes just to address any questions you may have. So feel free to put it in the chat or unmute, whichever way feels comfortable. Would just love to hear from you. We'll just give it a minute for you to type your questions out or unmute and share. All right, seems like things have been going pretty well. So just want to say, keep it up. It's been super exciting to see everyone's credit gains. And as a community, the fact that we're all, doing our payoffs. I think Simran reported last week that 90% of women who are in our private beta have experienced a credit score increase of some sort. So yay. So we hope that that's everyone here in the room. And if for some reason your credit score is stagnated, don't hesitate to reach out to set time with us, and we can chat through how to, best help. So we're always here for all of your credit needs. All right, so with that, super exciting topic today, business credit cards. And this is what we're going to be covering. What is a business credit card? How does it differ from a personal card? What are some of the benefits that you might need to know about a business credit card? What does it come with? Rewards, perks, etc. What you might be thinking about when you're choosing the best type of business card for you. We have a few picks that we like to make it easy, but of course, do your own research, and then we'll have time for Q&A. But before we kick off, Simran, if you want to launch your poll, I'm really curious to hear from the group how many of you have a small business or a side hustle, or, are kind of an owner of your own company. We'll just take a few minutes to see see the group here. And even if you don't, we hope you do in the near future. And in any case, this information is good to have. All right, cool. So of the folks who voted, looks like we have some business owners, some side hustlers here, and a few of you are maybe aspiring to get there as well. So cool, great to know. All right. Okay, so I'm going to start kicking off into our content, but as we do every week, just want to make this super interactive. If you have a question, would love if you wouldn't mind just turning your video on and asking that, sharing your experiences. That's always the best part of these. And frankly, I get tired of my own voice week after week. So would love to hear from you all and just have this be as interactive. The point is to be helpful to you. So before we kick off, does anyone have any questions off the bat about business cards or just an experience that you've had, just to kind of get us warmed up and start talking? I'm monitoring our chat too, in case anything comes up there. Oh, it's a great question, Simran. Yeah, what side hustles does everyone have and want to have? Would love to hear from the folks here who, said yes to that poll. Would you mind sharing? And, it might be a great way for the Sequin community to support your hustle as well. Would love to hear from one or two of you. What's your side hustle?
I guess I can go. I've got two. I run a nonprofit that focuses on expanding access to tech for women. But I've also got like a true personal side hustle as like a professional actor and model. And I feel like business credit has always been kind of a struggle because in one, I don't have like a formal entity of any kind, like I'm a freelancer. And then in the other one, like I feel like as soon as you stamp something with a label of a nonprofit, a lot of the typical business development tools just kind of get closed off to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you wouldn't mind sharing as well, I know you and I had a conversation about an experience that you had applying for a small business card, right? If you feel comfortable sharing, and no problem if not, would love to kind of talk about that for a bit as we set the stage here about, why this content's important.
Yeah, I think like I started my businesses pretty young, and so I really struggled because so many of the small business credit cards wanted to look at your personal credit. And I was 15 when I started my company, so there was no personal credit to speak of. Um, and I think that coupled with the all the typical things where people look at people who are younger and who are of color and are women, and they just don't take as many risks on you. Um, and it just makes it a little bit more difficult because you have to prove yourself over and over just to be taken seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's thank you for sharing, first of all. And, one of the pieces that was really challenging to hear during the pandemic was women being disproportionately affected by PPP loans to keep our businesses alive, right? And a lot of the challenge there is that a lot of times with business credit and loans, they're actually looking at your personal credit history. And, as we talk about a lot at Sequin, women are disadvantaged there to no fault of our own. And that's affecting our businesses as well. So thank you for sharing. And, the hope here is we can illuminate some of the different options for you and troubleshoot, if you have been in a situation. So really appreciate you sharing. All right, so Business Cards 101. This is what you need to know. There are two main types of business cards. There's small business credit cards, and what's great about these at a high level is small business cards don't require you to be incorporated or have a legal entity at all. So, I can apply for a small business card, just me as Brenda, nothing to do, with my company. They don't check any of that. But the challenge, and is maybe okay depending on where you are, is that you are making a personal guarantee and they're checking your credit score to underwrite your business. So you are linked to your business, and that's how they're thinking about extending you a loan. Some popular products, which we'll talk about later on in the presentation, American Express has a few business products. Chase has a few business products as well that are pretty good, but just want to call out, the deal with a small business card. The second option is a corporate credit card. And there are some new credit card startups, but they're not really startups in the way that they operate. Brex is a big name. Another one is Ramp. From personal experience, Sequin has a Brex card. It's a great tool. And what is really cool about Brex versus some of these other small business cards is that they're actually underwriting your business and not you. And so when they're trying to figure out, okay, should I extend this business a credit card? Should I extend them a line of credit? They're not actually looking at you as an individual, but they're actually looking at your business health, right? But you do need to be incorporated. You need to have an LLC, an S Corp, a C Corp. And many times they look at the cash that you have in that account as well, though some of those rules are loosening up a little bit. But it's very much based off business, your actual corporation, your business versus you as an individual. So if you are a person, who's struggling with their credit score or just doesn't want to be giving a personal guarantee, for their business expenses, then some of these solutions might be better, but it does require, again, you to have kind of a legal entity and, have a tax ID number, EIN, et cetera. So I'll pause there. Does anyone have any questions up front? We'll be double clicking, but this is kind of the high level. Any comments, any questions?
I actually have a question. So the corporate credit cards are if you have an LLC or Inc. or something like that. But what about like if you're freelancing or just consulting, that would be a small business credit card. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. So one of the qualifications that you need for one of these corporate cards versus a small business credit card is you have to be legally incorporated as an entity. And that works also for nonprofits, right? But as long as you are incorporated, then you can get a corporate card. Thanks for your question. All right, cool. Okay, so another kind of interesting topic in kind of this business credit conversation is business credit scores. So I know at Sequin we spent a lot of time talking about our personal credit scores, right, and how our credit history is so important. Our businesses are also assigned credit scores, and that's going to be used to, in the future, if you do want a credit line increase in the same way, or you want some sort of loan, or it goes back also to the PPP loan conversation, right? It is so important that the credit health of your business is, in top shape as well. And those credit scores, even though they might be using your personal credit history to determine your credit worthiness for your business, you're still going to be building that second, score as well. There are some differentiated factors too. So they'll look at, the size of your business, but then there's also similar factors, right? How are you paying? When are you paying? Are you paying on time? Are you paying in full? All those type of things, all those different factors. And then there are bureaus as well that are collecting your credit score and reporting, right? And so for consumers, it's going to be primarily Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Equifax and Experian also do business credit. And then there's this was the first time I had heard of them, Dun and Bradstreet is another one, another name, right? So this is just, know that you have a credit score, which is very, very important. And then your business also has a credit score, which is one of the indicators of your business health. All right. Okay. So question in the chat, great question. Can getting a business credit card impact your personal credit score? And the answer is yes. So as we mentioned, in order to get a small business card, many times they'll run your personal credit, right? And so if you are in a situation where something happens on your business card, but you are linked to it, then it can also affect your personal credit score as well. So it's really, really important to keep your credit health in mind, keep your business's health in mind as well. And if possible, as I'm going down this, it's a little bit of a scary proposition to me to have those things linked. So if you can get, one of these corporate cards or something else that kind of separates you and your business, if that is possible, then that is, our Sequin expert recommendation. But also understand, if you aren't able to get that incorporation status, then it can be a little bit more challenging. And you just want to make sure that you're being extra careful and really responsible with your business credit the same way that you are with your personal credit. That's a great question. All right, moving on to the next slide. All right, so this is kind of a great topic for this group, right? So having a small business credit card is still going to be useful to you. And so, if you think about tracking expenses and you are a freelancer, you're contracting, it's really great to track all of that with a small business card. They have a lot of additional tools that allow you to kind of manage all of those aspects of your business. The second piece is so you can put, of course, your expenses on there. And, we talked about even nonprofits counting, a startup counting as well. So even if you are incorporated, then you can still get a small business card. And then lastly, you can still use your personal card for business expenses as well. But again, due to these factors and some others that we'll talk about, it is advantageous to kind of move away from your personal credit onto a more formal business account. So in addition to some of those benefits, right? So there's also, rewards, right? You have additional spending power for your business here. Same tenets that we talk about every week, right? You want to pay on time, you want to pay in full, etc. And then you also, if you have an annual fee, for example, on one of these cards, you can actually deduct it on your taxes as well. So there are a lot of kind of interesting perks to having a small business card also. And here are a few pieces to watch out for as well. So ask the question that we got in the chat, right? So if you apply for a small business card, your personal credit report will show that as a hard pull. And as we know, week over week at Sequin, we've talked about hard pulls, negatively affecting your credit score. So make sure that you're not acquiring a bunch of, credit cards, whether it's a business card or a personal card, the same tenets are still going to apply. And the second piece as we mentioned with the business card, it's you, not your business, are personally liable for paying it off, right? So in the effect that your business goes insolvent, you still might be on the hook for those expenses. So just make sure that you're really aware of how this card and how the product works. All right, and another question in the chat. Does a hard pull for a business card show up differently than a hard pull for personal credit? So great question. On your credit report, it'll show up the same way in that it'll have the same impact, but then it'll say, this was for this product, and the product, every time there's a hard pull, right, it says who did the hard inquiry. So it'll say, this was Chase, or this was some other issuer that you applied for your card with. So it shows up in the same way, but the product name will likely be tagged, as the business product. All right. Okay, so another piece we just want to double click into, the difference between a small business card and your personal card, right? And as we mentioned, you can still use your personal card for your business, but some of the perks of getting a different small business card, in addition to the ones that we talked about, there's differentiated perks and rewards for small business. And so you might actually be getting some perks on utilities, on supplies. We'll talk about this a little later in our power hour today, but there's some pretty cool perks around remote work as well, some cool tooling. So the perks are very much geared, and rewards are very much geared towards your business, and like AWS credits and that type of thing versus something else, groceries, etc. Right? They are reporting to bureaus, as we talked about. Welcome to whoever just joined. There are differences in the consumer protection laws. So the consumer protection laws for consumer credit don't apply necessarily to small business cards. So with consumer cards, there's some really stringent regulations, and they say, you can't, you bank cannot just randomly change the APR without letting the cardholder know. For a business card, those protections aren't as high. And so just make sure you're really on top of it, right? You're seeing, okay, what is the APR? What are these fees? Don't assume that it's the same as your personal credit card. And then lastly, your credit line on your small business cards is likely going to be a little bit higher than your personal one as well. So, that is a great thing if you can pay it off, and is, just make sure you're being really cautious about how you are, how you're spending, and make sure that you can pay all of that off with your business card. All right. Okay, so that's kind of the high level on business cards, and we'll come back to a comparison in a bit. But does anyone have any questions before we move on to some of the corporate cards? Kirsten, can I cold call you and ask you to share your experience applying for the small business card?
Oh.
If you feel comfortable, and feel free to say no,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I just, thought it might be
No,
helpful.
it was funny. I was driving, listening to the beginning of this, and I just got home. But what happened was, yes, I went to my bank a couple of months ago, and I wanted to apply for a business credit card. And my branch manager, who I've known for a while, said like, "Oh yeah, this should be no problem." And I explained that my Discover card showed my FICO 8 score was, I think, like a 710 or 720, something like that, but that other scores were showing up as below 700, and I didn't understand then that there was FICO 8 and Vantage 3. And she assured me that it would be fine, that there would be no problem, and I was rejected immediately. And it turned out that in order to get the business credit card, they had a higher standard, and that it should have been like all my scores should have been above 700. So of course it was really disappointing, and now I have this a hard inquiry on my credit report, and so I kind of feel like now I have to wait it out and just keep building up my scores. But it was frustrating, because if I had known what the standard was, I would have waited and said, no, hold off, let me get my scores up higher. So it was disappointing, but I guess I learned something from it. So
Thanks for sharing, Kirsten. And I think we shared when you and I talked about this, but it just, had you known, right? It's so much around just not knowing, and you could have made, the right decision. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So really appreciate you sharing that. And I think it goes back to one of the questions in the chat, right? Does a hard pull for a business card show up differently than a hard pull for your personal credit? It's the same, right? When it's so linked. Was that your experience as well, Kirsten?
Yeah, I actually looked at my credit report today to verify, and there it was. So yeah, it shows up.
Yeah. All right. Well, not to worry, right? We're building your personal, building your credit. Everything's great. You're doing awesome. Cool. Oh, go ahead, Simon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your credit score is pretty low. It's like in the 700s, as Kirsten mentioned. But your cash flow or your business is doing extremely well. It's like, you know, you're getting $300,000 a year for just like, let's just suppose. Does that kind of balance it out when they're trying to grant you a business credit card?
That is such a great question, Simran, and is actually a pretty good segue into the next section here. But I'll kind of at a high level. So that's actually one of the reasons why some of these new age corporate credit cards that we're going to talk about next have come up, where a lot of people were starting businesses, right? Especially, you know, young people, right? Or recent immigrants hustling and starting these really successful businesses, but they didn't have credit history. And so when they would go to banks, I remember reading an article where a really famous creator, he, I think, is bringing in like multiple $1 million of revenue a year. He said, when I went to the banks, they looked at my business and they looked at me like a drug lord because they just had no idea how to underwrite me. I didn't have a credit history, but I had so much money coming in. And so that's kind of the use case for some of these additional credit cards. It's the same challenge, right? When you, even if you are one of us, right? And we are trying to build our credit history. We're new to credit, but we have income. In the eyes of the system, that's not actually showing up, right? Your credit score is really what matters. And unfortunately, you kind of have to play into that system and make sure that you're building your credit regardless of how much cash you have. So in the case that you're mentioning, some of these corporate credit cards might actually be a better fit for you. If you are a person who doesn't have, the credit required for whatever reason. But also, as I mentioned, I do think it's a good thing to separate your kind of personal financial situation from your business situation. In case something happens, at least you're protected by, business laws versus, you personally are on the hook for however much, you've spent on your business. So it's a great, great question. And Kirsten asked in the chat, I mentioned that I didn't know yet the differences between a FICO 8 and Vantage 3 score. What was that? Great question. So credit scoring is just a black box. I don't, I've worked on credit card. I spent my career working on credit. I've spoken with every single credit expert, and it's still a black box to me. But this is what I can share on this. So there's over 40 versions of FICO. FICO 8 is used by 90% of lenders today. FICO is what the lenders input into their kind of, in the background, they're running analytics on you to figure out, A, do I want to extend this person credit? And B, at what rate? And C, how much, right? That's the questions that every lender is going to ask. And so they're using your FICO 8 score for that. And it's very much lender facing. Your Vantage 3.0 score is a consumer score that was created, I believe, by TransUnion. And so that's what, when you go to Sequin every week and you're checking your credit, that's a Vantage 3.0 score. Other places that you're going to check your credit score are also using Vantage 3.0. An interesting tidbit is if you go to Capital One, for example, and you are looking for your credit score, they'll show you your Vantage 3.0 score. They aren't showing you the actual algorithm that they use to, to determine how much credit they want to give you, or, what products at what rates. So basically just think Vantage 3.0 consumer, slightly different from what the lenders are going to be seeing. Your FICO score is actually going into your lender's algorithm to figure out how much credit and at what rate they want to extend it to you. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. Okay. So I want to start talking about some of these corporate credit cards. And I'm going to go deep on Brex. And part of that is because I think, Brex is a great product. Sequin uses Brex personally. So it's a product that I personally can vouch for. But other names that are out there, Ramp, have heard great things as well, just don't have personal experience with it. What I do want to share on corporate credit cards is what we talked about, right? One, there's no personal guarantee or credit check. And so it's actually looking at primarily the cash in your account. Traditionally, I'm going to jump to the last point. Traditionally, these cards were created for venture funded startups. And so you have a ton of cash, right? But now, as it's becoming more mainstream to have these cards, then they're opening up to smaller businesses, et cetera. You do require an incorporation, so LLC, S Corp, C Corp, but you need a EIN number. And this is actually kind of an interesting difference. Usually they are charge cards. And the difference between a charge card and your traditional revolving line of credit is that at the end of the month, you need to pay it back in full. So there's no option to borrow money, and then the next month there's interest on it and revolve, right? Like your personal cards. The other small business cards have those. They have your traditional APR rates. These cards, you have to pay it off on time at the end of the month. Okay, so those are kind of the high level pieces. So I'm going to do a deep dive into one small business card and one corporate card. But before I go into that, does anyone have any more questions? I know it's been kind of this is definitely like a 301 topic with a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions, just here to help. I fear silence, because it's either, okay, I've got it, everything's great, or I've jumped too many hurdles and people are confused. Can people just say like thumbs up, or it's like, I'm good, or are you confused? Thumbs up. Okay, cool. Awesome. That's what I like to hear. Anyone? Okay, yeah, I see thumbs ups. Kirsten, how are we doing? Good. Okay, it's good. Okay, awesome. Simran, all good? Cool. Okay, cool. This is amazing. Awesome. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go into a deeper dive into two cards that we like at Sequin. And it's not to say that the other cards aren't great, just want to do a little bit of a double click. So for a small business credit card, we really like the Chase Inc. Business Unlimited card. Here are some of the features, and some of them are going to look familiar and some of them are going to be a little new, right? So key features: 1.5% cash back on every dollar spent. So for every dollar you get 1.5 cents back, right? There's no annual fee, but if there were, then you can write that off as a tax deduction. You can earn a bonus cashback offer of $750, but the fine print, beware, you need to spend $7,500 in the first 3 months, which is quite a hefty amount in order to get that. So just be clear, when you see this offer, it might feel very dazzling, but make sure that you're able to really take advantage of that offer. Your intro APR for the first 12 months is going to be nothing, but after 12 months, then it can go up. After 12 months, it can go up to 20%. So as we always say at Sequin, right, borrowing money from a credit card is some of the most expensive capital you are ever going to borrow. So if you have friends, if you have anyone you can borrow from, just borrow from them and not here. And then you can redeem points for gift cards, travel, Amazon purchases. They also have tools to help, that come along with this card. And so it'll help you kind of do some of your business finances, et cetera. Not like they're going to give you a tax advisor or anything, but there are tools, et cetera. Does anyone have this card in the group? Simran, did we breeze past a poll? Can we here? Let's launch that poll. Okay, this is the question. Does anyone here have a business credit card today? All right, cool. So it looks like mostly people do not here. Okay, cool. And then Simran, we have that second one, right? Are you looking for one? Yeah, so are you actively looking for a business card? Okay, cool. So many of you are saying yes, a few no's. Okay, cool. Awesome. So, especially for those, actually, most of you are saying yes. That's awesome. I guess that makes sense why you're with us today. But yeah, if there are any specific questions or if there are other cards that you saw, we know about those as well. These are just the ones that we profiled. So feel free to just in the chat, like I saw this card, I have this question. We just, again, want to help. All right. And then also want to profile on the corporate card side, the Brex card. And as I mentioned, this is the one that Sequin has. And personally, I think it's a really great card. And what's kind of interesting on it is you get these very specific rewards for business, right? So you can see it's, rideshare, hotels and flights. We're not doing a whole lot of that right now, but what's also cool is kind of recurring software, Apple products, business products and tools. It's building your business credit. Also, this is because this is a charge card, you have to pay off at the end of the month, right? Remember with the corporate cards, it's the charge. And so as you start to get more and more cash flow in your account, then your credit line increases as well. And the UX is great. So, some of the features, you can onboard new employees easily. There's automated receipt capture. The app is really easy to use. I don't mean to really sell this card or anything. It's just the one that I personally use. So I'm more familiar with some of the features. But also, there are remote rewards as well. So credits on AWS, Slack, QuickBooks, Zoom. And what's kind of cool is, so one of Sequin's investors is from Brex, and he mentioned that they are actually bringing down the requirements where you don't have to have quite as much cash in your account as when it started off for venture funded businesses, right? So there's a ton of cash flow in those accounts. They're trying to open it up to a broader audience. So if anyone is interested in trying to see if they are pre-approved or not, I'll type this in the chat, but he said that he could check out just for the Sequin users here. If you want to just put the name of your business, your incorporation status, right? Are you an LLC, C Corp, S Corp, your EIN, and then if you have a website, that's another thing they use to see if you are a legitimate business. So link to your website, and he can run it through their head of operations and just see. It's not going to be a hard pull or anything. So if you are interested, again, this isn't about getting you the card necessarily, but if you're interested, then we can run that. Kirsten, we have yours. It's actually with their head of biz ops right now. So yeah, we're just trying to see if some of the side hustlers or full-time hustlers here can get some of these cool perks. All right, before I move on, so I did that card comparison, one small business card, one corporate card. Anyone have any questions or any, I guess, cards like that you've been looking into that you're like, this sounds pretty cool, would love to learn more?
Do you have any tips for like the applications themselves? I remember there were some like life hacks being shared when we talked about applying to personal credit cards. And was wondering if you had any similar pearls of wisdom for the business ones.
That is a great question. And we actually might, I think we took out that slide. Yes. So like when you are applying for a personal card, you want to put your best foot forward. So never lie. That's never what we encourage here, but you want to make sure that you are reporting any income you have access to, right? And especially for the small business cards, the not corporate cards, they are looking at you as well because they're underwriting you kind of as your business. So make sure in the same way as when you're applying for a personal card that you're putting any income you reasonably have access to. So that could be anything from student loans, it could be alimony, right? It could literally just any, if your parents are still supporting you in any way, whatever amount of that you reasonably have access to, then you should put that there. So this isn't a time to be humble about your business. This is like, all right, this is what we're doing. Just report everything that you can and put your best foot forward. Whatever number is higher, Kirsten. The question was gross or adjusted income. I would say gross, right? You just want to say everything, put that out there, put your best foot forward. All right. Any other questions on, that was a great question on any hacks for your business application. Anything else?
To follow up on that, when you say report any income you have access to, are you saying like for like the small business cards where they do look at your personal credit, you should include your personal income and the business income together?
Yeah, just include everything. Because what happens with those small business cards, as we mentioned, right? Because you are personally guaranteeing it, if something happens to your business, you are still on the hook, right? And so basically what they're doing when they're asking you for how much income do you have in that application, they're trying to see if something horrible happens and they're no longer, they just need to see your ability to pay back, basically. So you do want to put, your income personally, your business income, just throw it all at that. And, I guess in the spirit of, we are empowered women, right? Men are doing this all the time. And then it also makes our outcomes look worse when we aren't reporting and they're saying literally anything. Oh, my neighbor is able to loan me, this amount of money. They put that on there. So don't be shy. This is not a time to be humble. It's a time for you to get credit. All right. What do we have in this chat? With the corporate card, would you put your personal income? So that's a great question. So with your corporate card, you'll want to put only your business income because they're only using your company's income to make a lending decision as well. So if you want to, you can, but it could mean that you would be personally liable for a little bit more. Just with a corporate card, keep your personal finances and your business finances separate. So just report your business finances. And I'm now thinking back to when I applied for this Brex card, right? It had nothing to do with my personal, it was all Sequin finances. So the answer is no. Cool. All right, such good questions here. That's awesome. All right. Okay, so we're kind of at that time. We have 15 minutes left officially. So we always like to put some FAQs that we hear from our community, but I always like to just hear, which of these do you ladies want to talk about, and which one is most interesting to you, or if this jogs, another question, happy to do a little bit of Q&A for the next few minutes until we wrap up. I'll take votes in the chat, or you can unmute and ask, whatever works. All right, so I've gotten one request for what do they look for? Which one is that? Oh, top right. Okay, so the question is, what do business issuers look for when approving small business card applications? Okay, so it's kind of a lot of what we chatted about, right? So for a small business card application, not the corporate ones, right? The corporate ones are just looking at your company financials. They are looking for your business health and then your health too, because again, you're personally guaranteeing it. So the application is going to look in part similar to a personal application when you do a credit card, and then a credit card application. And then the other part is going to be much more specific to your business. So they'll be asking some questions. But again, with a small business card, you don't have to be incorporated or anything. So those, they might not be asking all those questions. Kirsten, do you remember with your, I actually personally have never applied for a small business card. Do you remember that some of the questions that they asked? If it was too far back, no problem.
You know, that was another thing. I simply said, I want a business credit card. There was no discussion between, is it a small business? Is it a corporate card? Um, so to be honest, now that I'm hearing all this, I'm like, I don't know exactly what I did apply for, you know. So I'm assuming it might have been a corporate card because my bank knows that I'm an a PLLC.
Mhm.
But honestly, I'm not entirely sure. It was very basic. They kind of had my information already, so they didn't really ask me much.
Okay, so it sounds to me, Kirsten, if they did say that they want to see your personal credit score, right? It might have been a small business card application because that's the one in
Mm,
which they're taking into account you as the company owner, taking into account your
okay.
health as well. So likely, and you know better than me, right? You had done the application, but likely it was a small business card application. That being said, it sounds like it was just kind of over the phone and not really, they didn't walk you through it the way that personally I feel they should have.
No.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so basically looking for your health and then, some details for your business. And they will be asking you your business name, right? Even if it's not incorporated or anything, they'll want to know those pieces of information. All right, so some requests for the bottom right. Can I redeem points for personal items or do I have to redeem it for business related things? All right, that is a great question. You can redeem the points for personal items. But again, the points are going to be more kind of business focused, right? The ones that you're going to get the most mileage out of in terms of the points conversion. We talked about that, last week and a few weeks ago. Those are going to be the highest value on business related expenses, but you can still redeem them as cash back, and that cash you're very welcome to pocket and use however you would like. So the points don't have to be business expenses and don't necessarily need to be written off. I don't think. Simran, do you have any thoughts?
No, I was looking this up earlier because I was confused about it as well.
Yeah.
And then I did a lot of searching, which is I could have just asked, clearly. No, you can redeem points for whatever you like. Obviously, like they're not gonna go check, if you swipe something on like a coffee, like did you have this coffee during a networking meeting? Oh, if you didn't, sorry, you can't redeem points. That's totally not true. Check it for whatever. But of course, like the more you spend on something that's like is very obviously businessy. So for example, well, a Zoom account, they're gonna think, oh well, that's reasonably something she'd use for work. Then yes, you get more rewards out of it.
Yeah. And those categories are tagged in their system internally, right? So Zoom, as an example, is going to count as one of the categories. But again, as we've spoken about here at Sequin, right? It's your earn. So how many dollars do you spend, and then how much do you earn on those dollars, and then your burn. What do you use that earn for, right? And so when you're burning those points, the same way that you burn them with personal cards, you can choose different options, right? Whether it's cash back, so you can just pocket that as cash, or you can use it on, I want to get discounts on AWS credits. And if you use your points, then you're able to get those, right? So again, your points are going to go further if you use them towards business related expenses, but no one's auditing these, right? It's especially with the small business card, you don't need to, be worried about that. So you can use it for your personal expenses if you want a business card. But again, you will get the most value out of it if you use it for your business expenses. Okay. All right. Upper middle. Does it matter if I open a business credit card with the same bank as my personal credit card? Okay, great question. The answer is no. So this is the same way, as we talk about every week at Sequin, when you are applying for a credit card, there's no loyalties, right? So it's not like I have one product at this bank, and so I need to get another product with this bank. The only reason that might be beneficial to you is if you are, let's say it's Chase and you want to use all of your Chase points in Chase's portal for travel, then you would, maybe if you want to points optimize in that way, but it's not going to help you. It's not going to help your chances of getting approved for a credit card. So in that same way, getting a business card with your bank is not going to help. They're still going to use third-party agencies to get your data to figure out, do I want to extend credit to her, at what rate, if at all, which product, etc. So no is the short answer, and the long answer is it doesn't help them make a decision based off of you. All right, we have just a few more minutes. Any other burning questions? Was this helpful to folks? This is actually the first time I have done one of these sessions. And so it was really inspired by our Sequin community. You all asking questions about business cards got me inspired to get smarter about them. And of course, our whole team as well. So looks like some questions. So what do you do if you get rejected? Okay, so unfortunately, some of us have had that situation, right? And so if you get rejected, there's two courses of action. The first one is, I guess I would dedicate this one to Kirsten, right? So we're building our personal credit and, just kind of waiting for the next time to apply, kind of, putting a better foot forward, et cetera. Now that you know what you know, you can reapply, but don't do that the next day, right? Do it in a few months when your personal credit situation is better. So that's one. The second option is you could look at one of these corporate cards, right? Again, they are underwriting your business versus you. And that's actually more on the merits of your business because they're looking at, how much money is your business bringing in, but most importantly, is your business legitimate, right? Have you incorporated, et cetera? Do you have a website, I guess, is a sign of legitimacy. So those are two options if you get rejected. All right, and then I have a credit card from my employer. Does that affect my credit? Okay, this is such a good question. Thank you for asking. And it's probably one that we might want to add on the slide as well. So it depends is the answer. Some employers may, when they're giving you a corporate card from the employer side, they might actually underwrite you, the employee, in addition to the business, right? So let's say you work at, I don't know what a good example is. Let's say you work at Billy Razors, right? And Billy Razors wants to give their employees a credit card. And so Billy Razor is going to be underwritten as a company. And then they might, whoever the card issuer is, might look at the employee as well. So in that case, if they do, then it'll show up on your credit report as a card that you own. And it's possible that, if you put a charge on there that's not, it's not approved by the employer, then you might be personally liable. And so that's one situation. Actually, we had a Sequin girl who was in that situation. We're looking through her credit report. We're like, what is this card? What's going on? Why did it get closed? And then we realized that her previous employer, which was actually a pretty big, well-known company, had extended her a card and they had underwritten her and they hadn't really asked whether that was okay. So she had no idea. So that's one situation. Another situation is that they just underwrite the employer, right? So when I worked at Visa, for example, I had a corporate card and it was all underwritten through Visa. If something happened, Visa was totally liable. Visa trusted me, and so the issuing bank then worked directly with Visa. I think it was, gosh, it was so long ago. I think it might have been Wells Fargo or one of those companies. So it depends. And the best way to know is check your credit report. You can actually get it free anytime on the Sequin website. If you sign into Stitch Credit, it'll say download credit report. Look through it and just see, is your corporate card on there or not? And report back, let us know. It'd be interesting to see, how that shakes out as well. All right, such a good question. Okay, I think we have time for just one more, and then we'll say good night for this week. Anything?
Brenda, why did you pick a Brex card over the other corporate card options?
Yeah, great question. So there are a few things. The first was I am very judicious about separating my personal financial life and my company's financial life. I don't want to be in a situation where, something happens to the company and then I'm personally liable, especially, at the stage that we're in, we're talking about, some large amounts. And personally, I would not be able to, be able to personally guarantee that amount of money. And so it's very, very important to have that separate. The second piece was because we are venture funded, we qualified for that card even before they kind of lowered the restrictions as well. And I thought the benefits were really, really cool. And then the third, personally, was just, as we are trying to help women understand credit, wanted to kind of be on a cutting edge of a product as well. And those were some of the newest ones out there. And fourth, the user experience is really great. It's great to have this app that you can, be able to manage really well. The benefits are great. The customer service is awesome. So yeah, I didn't, at the core of it, the most important thing was that I didn't want to personally guarantee our business finances with my personal finances. And that is something that if I could give unsolicited advice, I think that is, a good practice. You just never know what's going to happen. All right. Okay. Really quick. I just checked my credit report tonight. It's not on there, but I didn't know it would show up there if it was. Cool. So yeah, so it's not showing up. And then Kirsten, last question. I've received offers for the Chase Ink card with my business name on the mailer. Does that mean I'm more likely to be approved? No. So there are two processes. One is that Chase is saying, okay, you are a business owner, right? And you might be in the market for a card and your credit score, you are credit visible, your credit score is rising, right? As we know. And so they are looking at that and saying, okay, when you start to think about it, we want you to think about us, but you're still going to have to apply and your chance of approval is not guaranteed. So I would still recommend waiting a few months and then going at it again, or let's see how this Brex card shakes out as well. Cool. All right. Well, we're right at 7. Thank you again for such a fun power hour. You all come with the best questions and it's such a pleasure. So feel free to message us on Slack. Hope you're all in there. Let your friends know about Sequin. We're opening it up a little bit. So trying to just bring in friends and family into our little community here. And yeah, if any of you need anything at any time, let us know in the feedback form, schedule time with me in our Slack, etc. But have a wonderful night. Thank you again for being here. Oh, I see some hearts. So nice. All right. Have a good night, all. Bye.